Hey guys, I'm Captain Foley.
And I'm Commander Cockings, and throw the different intro each time. So keep me on my toes.
That's right. We are Trekyards,
Yes.
as always, and we are back to talk Star Trek Discovery. Today we're talking about, we're going to talk about or Ash Tyler / Voq heading off with L'Rell at the end of the season to do their thing.
Greener pastures. And no, this is beyond the we're going to blackmail the Empire to create a new Empire. So beyond that, what is going to happen next? What is the future, and how are we going to see them in Season 2? Do you have any thoughts, Gio? What's your gut reaction? What did you think of him actually going with her? Let's start there, I guess.
It's a good question. I didn't expect it, but at the same time, it's like it couldn't have really ended any other way, in my opinion.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, that is somewhat of a sacrifice.
Yeah. Well, as he said, I'm no good to either side, yet I can go with her and be a good thing for both sides. And I think the way they're going to play it, they've even said that they got some really good plans for him for Season 2. But I see him working with her behind the scenes as maybe the voice of the torchbearer. Because as we know, he can still do the Voq voice perfectly. I mean, he could do audio, as we've talked about in our other discussion about the Klingon peace treaty. He could be a bit behind the scenes, calling people together. I know Takuvama didn't have much of a following, and it was kind of a failure.
And they all got blown up.
And Voq is the son of no one, and he's an albino. I get it, but he was still the torchbearer. He's still an official title, and Lr'ell could be his face man, as it were, his representative that goes out and does things while he's behind the scenes kind of helping. And he's also a bridge with the Federation to establish that Cold War status, that peace that they have. It's just, he's got both, histories behind him, so he knows both sides of the story. And I think that's going to be very helpful in helping Lr'ell wrangle in the houses. So
Well, it's like, you imagine, so what we see in the show happens, and then as soon as she leaves the council chamber, she's like, huh, that worked. Walks over to Tyler, who's in a little cupboard somewhere in a room, and she's like, oh, so what do we do next? And he's like, you don't have a plan? And she's like, no, did you have a plan? No. Oh, shit. Let's move into the council chambers and kick out the targs that have made residence there, because no one needs it, because we're scattered. And then we'll call a meeting in the houses, and then we'll build a government again. And Tar's like, yay. And then we start seeing people with the Augment virus, so, he blends in. He'll just pretend he's an Augment virus, like you said in the previous episode, because we know there's several billion of those. Not necessarily most loved, but he wasn't loved before. Or he gets the surgery to give him back ridges and hair, as is what they did. And maybe
he could be the reason too that the human versions of the Klingons become so prominent in TOS, because he helps Lr'ell establish this new government, and because I'm sure that those guys with the Augment virus were social outcasts at one point, but yet in TOS they're the forefront of the fleet that's at the Federation border. It could be that he brings that to the forefront. And he shows his strength as a human. Maybe, like you said in a previous discussion too, he gets some little bit of cranial reconstruction surgery, so he looks part Klingon, and he's that nice bridge between the two, and he brings those disgraced Augment virus Klingons to the forefront, saying, well, he helped establish this empire, he helped establish the Klingon Defense Force and this unity we now have. So why not, as to ease Federation relations, why not have Klingons that look more like humans interfacing with humans, and keep the Imperial Klingons back
on the borders and such. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's more risky to let the Klingon Empire know that we can turn Klingons into humans, because that's quite a serious thing. Like, that's a better kept secret, and we know it was, he was the first one, so that's probably better kept secret. And so you really have to say, if you're going to keep him as Klingon, say Augment. I mean, you've got that out straight away. So if the public relations version is Augment virus version, then and yet it's a position of power, then yes, it's good PR for those guys. So like, yeah, as you're saying, they can be more prominent. Tyler can say, well, hey, these guys, I mean, the Augment virus wasn't meant to change them personality-wise. It would have been nice if they'd said, it makes them a little bit less aggressive, because then he could have said, all right, these guys I can relate to.
Didn't they? They did say that, though. It takes away some of the aggression.
Well, I think that was when it was not treated. That was the one that killed them. But then obviously they had to do the cure. Yeah. Like, whatever happened to them wasn't exactly what was meant to happen to them. It was I think you're right, but for the designed version rather than the everyone got it.
I think the Augment version, because it was augmented humans with increased ability, increased desire, increased aggression. That was initially the stance that the Klingons were taking. They wanted that more aggression, more whatever, and because they had to find the cure, they had to neuter it. Exactly. They needed to dial it back, and I think that might make them a little more passive because of the cure, because that'll be genetically within them, and they wouldn't be as aggressive as a regular Klingon.
Or double down on that. I mean, we're 100 years after that. That's a long time. I mean, Klingons, that's not the longest time, but okay, yes, Kor, Kang, Koloth, they're all still in the Imperial Navy. They're not exactly all captains. I mean, the drunk guy, he's a Dahar master, but he's not the guy he's senile enough that you don't let him be the captain responsibly, So we know that there is a certain, and he was young in TOS, so there is a certain period where, 100 years, they're not at their prime anymore. Still function, but hey, not their prime. So if you think 100 years, the next generation, those Augment virus had kids, and those people might have been more docile, just a bit, enough to be noticeable. That would have been really interesting, and you'd very easily.
That's what brought on the peace treaty with the Federation in TNG times, because they were more docile.
Well,
maybe as a species,
maybe. But I mean, surely Kang, Cole. I mean, they haven't been born yet in Enterprise, so you could very easily say they were Augment virus-based Klingons. They were born to those families, hence why they're TOS-y. They get reconstruction as everyone does in their later life. It's just a thing that happens, and that's why they were more nice, pleasant, and then it just becomes a basic thing. Like in Orville, no one can be a girl. No one doesn't have ridges. Everyone chooses to have ridge surgery, or just genetically. I mean, we know that Torres was altering DNA of her child, so at a certain point they can just genetically modify it in and out of their children. So I'm sure they can then say, okay, this next gen of kids, we want everyone to have ridges. That's our legacy. But the passivity, that 10% reduction in aggression, or xenophobic, racist, genocide, mass murder, eating people side of Klingons, like we saw in Discovery, that's lessened. And again, we're really giving them more credit than we think and they deserve, because they haven't thought this far into it. But to have Tyler Voq be the front man for this new revolution of equality among Klingons that lets the smoothheads come in, that lets the hair Klingons come in, because maybe at this point only the radical-looking Klingons were in charge. Only those really rich houses that could afford the treatments to make their heads twice as big as a Klingon's head should be. Maybe he thinks, well, part of a equality and peace with the Federation's peace with each other, and so that rather than having three classes, the richest that have the changes, and I guess the warriors, because all the warriors look the same, but we need to retcon that back out of Trek because it's dumb. And then the middle, everyone else has hair and looks middling, and then the lower class has the no foreheads. So you've got this cultural divide that gets brought into whatever, and then in season 2 we get to see all three types of Klingons.
That would be excellent.
Yeah, all serving very different purposes, and then you would have this great sense of Klingon Empire that we were promised. A sense of their culture, a sense of they're not all warriors, a sense of in depth. That would be perfect.
I totally agree with everything you just said. Absolutely. Discovery writers, pay attention. Someone forward this to them. And I don't know. See, for season 2, I'm not sure exactly how far they're going to go into the Klingon culture. I'm sure it's going to be a pretty big part still, because of this Lr'ell and Ash Tyler
bought
thing.
The costumes.
That's right. So.
Well, I made the costumes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that makes for that lines it up. Explains Enterprise, the Augment virus, this missing piece of history. and it ties it right back in with TOS with the human-looking Klingons, and that's a nice, neat little bow. And wow, we should be in charge. You know what? We should be in charge. Just saying.
And especially if you'd pitched this to us from the start, like if you knew with this by the end of the season you would have this Klingon that was human looking, get into it, then you could justify these really random looking Klingons as being this, they genetically modify themselves into this hypersense people because they want to be more like Molor even, or something, something a bit more whatever. Mm-hmm. But that's not a quality, it's like, why in Discovery do we only see the Discovery Klingons? Why in TOS do we only see TOS Klingons? Why in TNG do we only see TNG Klingons? When, by these logics, you should see all three in all three timelines. So why don't you? And that, I guess, proves you could make it work. But yeah, how much we going to see the Klingons? Some, I like I said in our review, I want to see a Daenerys Targaryen situation where all of season 2 is just we cut back to them for, say, 7 minutes of every episode. In the middle somewhere, in a cut from commercial, we say, and, same time on Kronos, Lr'ell is building her empire. And we see him have a conversation, and we see D7s being built, and we see building of this empire, and then back in the Federation space, real stuff is happening, and each episode we're building this tapestry, and events link into what's happening in the Federation side, and that'd be interesting. And then the payoff is in season 3. That sort of long play that I think we need. Don't make Klingons the big bad. Don't make Klingons even a big threat or a big force. Cause especially, you don't want to neuter their neutering at the end of the season by saying, right, she's now in charge. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see the establishment of the Klingon High Council. I'm sure we're going to see that.
That could be interesting, yeah.
And the creation of the KDF, the Klingon Defense Force, which has a unified mission and goal to protect the Empire, and maybe the creation of brand new ships like the actual D7.
Actual birds of prey.
They've already called them birds of prey and D7s, which annoys me.
Well, they call them birds of prey and Enterprise as well. Like we said, go out to classic designs because they already built ships that look very similar in the past.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the classics of the future.
That'd be a little harder to explain, the ships, but I would like to see something a little more traditional as far as the ships go. We've said that all along. We are the ship guys, after all.
And it's weird they've shown such variety in Federation designs, and yet nothing in the Klingon fleet looks Klingon. You'd think if they have that carte blanche to say, well, of course there's 24 houses, you'd think they'd see everywhere in between, because then you can say, oh, we only saw House Decor's D7 battlecruiser Mark IIIs the 6 times we saw in TOS. It's a fictional universe with fictional rules. You can retcon things back in, but there's the feather touch approach, and there's the punch to the face with a knife stabbing you in the gut and telling and feeding you ice cream at the same time, saying you must like this. Stab, punch, stab, punch, stab, punch, stab, punch. There are better ways of doing it, and hopefully they've learned their lessons. We can hope.
Well, what have we accomplished in like a 13-minute conversation so far? We've already kind of solved all the problems with continuity and storytelling and bringing it all together.
And we're saving them budget as well.
You would hope somebody on their staff would have enough common sense to see the bigger picture, the bigger tapestry that is Star Trek, 50 years of history, and bring it all together like this. That's what I'm hoping.
Well, they promised to do that by year 7, year 8, where we now hit TOS. But in a recent interview, they said, we can't show the inside the TOS colony because that would look silly. Can't be both ways.
Right.
You literally can't, because you're either retconning something or you're doing something completely unique. They're different things.
And we don't have a problem either way. If you want to do something unique, that's fine. Just tell us.
But fundamentally, I agree with you. I think it'll be partially seen. I think Lr'ell will... I don't know. She's a weird Klingon, and her power, but she has no ships, no soldiers, no political clout, no territory. She has the monks on that planet that did the conversion, but they're scientist people. Takuma's house is destroyed. The other house is like the spies. I mean, she hasn't. You know what I mean? I mean, Martok, Garon, they had people behind them when they did these coups and did these taking over the empire. They had respect. They had she has nothing of that. She has a torchbearer, which only barely got them together, let alone anything else in the pilot. So
yeah, and do you think in reference to the patriarchs, the ones that created Ash Tyler, do you ever think that they were perhaps have they been working with the Augment virus to help bring Klingons back around genetically, and that's how they had this knowledge that they could incorporate human and Klingon DNA together? So maybe that'll be a nice tie-in as well, because there's no cloaking technology. Well, there is still cloaking technology, but the Federation can detect it now, so that's kind of off the table as an advantage. And like you said, Lr'ell has no ships. She has no people. All she has is the patriarchs, who do know who she is and are behind her because they were the ones that were responsible for the...
Well, it's her house. Yeah, I think it's her mum's house, I think they said. Yeah. Interview.
So, I mean, I would love to see that tie in and have them become something... Like, I want to learn more about that. I want to learn... And I think because of the Augment virus, that's how they had the... Either their family was directly influenced by it because they had it and they wanted to solve the problem by genetically altering themselves back to look Klingon, which blew up in their faces literally and made their heads like twice as big. They kind of pushed the genetics too far.
That's interesting.
That's why the Klingons look kind of mutated.
The anti-augment virus.
Yes.
How would you say that? Not the augment. The
anti-augment?
No. The purity virus.
There you go. But it genetically took them back a little bit too far genetically, and that's why they have the bigger heads, weirdly shaped.
That's
no
really
hair.
Interesting, actually. Yeah.
All their hair falls out because it's just a genetic manipulation that went wrong. And because they're the patriarchs and they have been working with human DNA, they were able to make Ash Tyler and the Voq symbiont, or whatever you want to call it, the creation. And yeah, again, that ties into bringing the whole of the Klingon Empire together, because they are divided as a people. The Smoothheads are looked down upon. The Imperial Klingons, are in charge. Bring it all around. Bring it all together and make them unified in themselves before they can be unified as a people.
Yeah, it just makes me hope that they think this through as much as we are, because that sounds great and exciting and interesting. But
I think we're going to get let down.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we've talked enough. What do you guys think? Do you think we had a good idea? What do you think about the Augment virus? What do you think about the smooth-headed Klingons? What do you think about Lr'ell and Tyler? What are they going to be doing in season 2 of Discovery? How is this going to unify the Klingon people? Let us know in the comments, as always. And if you want to be unified with us, you can do so by clicking subscribe and visit us on Facebook. We got a really cool Facebook group that has a lot of great conversations about ships and tech and all this cool stuff. And it's a great community. So please join our community and become unified. I'm going to use this unified thing because it's a thing. And click like, because a lot of people click like.
The Klingons want to unify now. The Vulcans and Romulans want to unify later. Everyone's about unification, guys. Even Spock was all about it. So support Spock. Spock for unification president.
And the best way to support unification is to
support us on Patreon. The regular monthly donation to help YouTubers like us, but especially us, a little bit each and every month helps the wheels of the bus, Trekyards bus, go round and round, and produce more and more content each and every month, each and every week, sometimes, as you've seen on Discovery and Orville, each and every day, which takes a lot of time. So support us that way, or a one-time donation, a thank you on trekyards.com. You click that big donate button, you give a little bit, go straight to our PayPal, and we thank you for any help you can give. Thank you.
That's right. So until next time, guys, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Commander Klingons.
And we are Team Trekyards, unified.
Yeah.
Join us.
Bye, guys.
Bye.